I was gone for 1 year. When I came back, my land was gone. Not sold, not lost, stolen. A woman named Karen, an HOA tyrant in disguise, fenced off my family's land, built a luxury resort, and started renting out my home like it was some weekend getaway for strangers. I didn't sell it. I didn't agree to it. She just took it. And when I demanded answers, she smiled, like I was some fool wasting her time, like she was untouchable. She thought her HOA rules made her invincible. She thought I'd roll over and let her win. She had no idea she just started a war. Before we dive deeper into this insane story, we've got a small favor to ask. Drop a comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? It's always amazing to see how far these stories reach, and we love hearing from you. And while you're here, do us a huge favor. Hit that like button. Seriously, it takes just a second, but it helps us more than you know. Plus, if you do, we guarantee your next week will go smoothly. No problems, no stress, just good vibes. Thanks for being part of our crew. You guys are the reason we keep going. Now, let's get back to this wild ride. The drive home felt different this time. The narrow road twisted through towering pines, the sunlight filtering through the branches in flickering patches. The scent of damp earth and fallen leaves should have been comforting. It should have made me feel at peace. It didn't. Something was wrong. Maybe it was the way the trees felt closer than usual, their shadows stretching just a little too far across the road. Maybe it was the silence, too still, too unnatural, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Or maybe it was just the feeling deep in my gut that I couldn't shake. The first sign? The old wooden sign at the entrance to my family's land. Except it wasn't there. I slowed the truck, my fingers tightening around the steering wheel. My pulse pounded as I scanned the roadside, looking for the familiar weathered post with Harper family estate carved into it. Gone. In its place stood a brand new polished board, sleek, expensive, with gold lettering that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Blue Pines Retreat, Luxury Woodland Rentals. I stared at it, my stomach twisting into a knot so tight I could barely breathe. What the hell? My foot slammed on the gas. Gravel shot out from under my tires as I tore down the familiar dirt road, the one leading to my home. Every tree, every bend in the path, I knew them all. I had driven this road 1,000 times. I knew the way the shadows stretched across it in the evening, the exact spots where the dirt turned soft after a storm. And yet, as I raced toward the clearing, I felt like I was heading somewhere unfamiliar, like I didn't belong here anymore. And then I saw it. My chest locked, my fingers clenched the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. This wasn't my home, not anymore. Cottages, 5 of them, brand new, modern, clean white walls, dark wood accents, large windows reflecting the sunlight like mirrors. The meadow where I used to run barefoot in the summers, where my grandfather once sat on the porch and watched the deer wander through the wildflowers, was gone. No, not gone, stolen. I slammed the truck into park and jumped out. The air smelled different, chemicals, chlorine. The fresh scent of pine was tainted. I took a step forward, my boots crunching against the gravel of a path that shouldn't exist. And that's when I saw them. A couple, lounging by a pool, in my meadow. They were laughing, completely at ease, drinks in hand, enjoying their weekend getaway, on my land. I walked straight up to them. My heartbeat was a drum in my ears. "Excuse me," I said, forcing my voice to stay even. "Do you live here?" The man grinned, tipping his sunglasses up onto his head. "Oh, no, we're just renting. This place is amazing, right? So peaceful. And private, too." My stomach twisted. I swallowed hard. "Who owns this place?" The woman shrugged. "Some lady named Karen. She runs the whole thing." Karen. The name hit me like a slap. I knew her. I had met her once, a year ago. She lived just down the road in a white house with blue shutters. The kind of house that looked warm and welcoming, the kind of house you'd never expect to belong to someone who could steal. It was a cool summer evening when she first stopped by. I had been working on my truck, wiping oil from my hands, when I noticed her car pulling up at the edge of my driveway. She had smiled, stepping out like we were old friends. "Beautiful land you've got here," she had said, her voice dripping with admiration. "I drive by it all the time." I had nodded, unsure what to say. People in small towns were friendly. It wasn't unusual for someone to strike up a conversation. But then she started asking questions. about my family, about my future plans, about whether I ever considered doing something more with the property. I had thought she was just being polite. Now I knew better. Now she had turned my home into a business. The memory burned in my mind as I stood there, staring at the cottages that weren't supposed to be here, the people lounging by pools that weren't supposed to exist. I felt sick. I forced a tight smile and nodded. "Do you have her number?" The couple exchanged glances before shrugging. "Of course," the woman said, scrolling through her phone. "She's great, really professional. She even left us a welcome basket when we got here." She handed me the number like it was nothing, like it wasn't a key to everything. I took it, my fingers curling around my phone as I typed it in. The screen lit up as the call connected. It rang once, twice, and then, "This is Karen. Which cottage are you interested in?" Cheerful, polished, like she had done this 1,000 times before, like she had no idea who was calling. I clenched my jaw, my breath tight in my chest. "Karen, we need to talk." There was a pause. Then the tone of her voice shifted, just slightly. "I'm sorry, who is this?" I gripped my phone so hard I thought it might crack. "My name is Liam Harper." Another pause, longer this time, then, "Oh." It was barely a reaction. Not shock, not guilt, just mild recognition. "You're the original owner." The original owner. As if I didn't still own this land. As if she had rewritten history. As if my family's legacy, decades of work, memories, and sacrifice, was just gone. Rage burned in my chest, clawing at my throat, but I swallowed it down. I couldn't lose control. Not now. "Meet me here, 2 days from now." Another pause. Then, in a tone so calm it made my skin crawl, "Of course, let's talk this through." No hesitation, no fear, like she had done this before, like she thought she was untouchable. I ended the call and turned back toward the cottages, the fences, the strangers invading what was mine. Karen thought this was over. She thought she had already won. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I knew something wasn't right. Karen wasn't just trespassing, she had a plan. And if I wanted my land back, I had to be smart. For 2 days, I barely slept. I spent every waking hour digging through old files, scanning documents, printing every legal record I could find. Deeds, maps, ownership certificates, everything proving the land belonged to my family. I made copies, packed them neatly in a thick folder, and waited. Because Karen was coming. She wanted a fight. She was about to get one. The morning of the meeting, the air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. A storm was brewing, not just between Karen and me, but in the sky above. Thick, gray clouds rolled in, darkening the horizon. The wind carried a sharp bite, whispering through the trees like a warning. I stood on the porch, folder in hand, eyes locked on the road. And then, right on time, a sleek black SUV pulled up. The tires crunched over gravel as it slowed to a stop near the cottages. The door opened, and there she was, dressed to impress in a navy blazer, sunglasses perched on her head, a confident smirk curling her lips. She stepped out, smoothing her jacket as if this was just another business deal. She didn't look nervous. She looked in control. That only pissed me off more. "Liam," she beamed, spreading her arms as if we were old friends. "So nice to finally meet properly." I didn't move. I didn't speak, and I sure as hell didn't shake her hand. Her smile faltered for just a second before she recovered, tilting her head slightly. "Oh, don't be so tense. We're just two people trying to resolve a little misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I clenched my jaw and thrust the folder into her hands. "You have 14 days," I said coldly. "Tear them down, every single one, or we take this to court." Karen blinked. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, she flipped open the folder. Her manicured fingers traced over the papers, her eyes scanning the documents. Her grip tightened. She knew she was screwed. For a brief moment, I saw something flicker across her face, something close to panic. But then, just as quickly, she masked it, letting out a soft chuckle. "Liam," she said smoothly, shutting the folder with a crisp snap. "These cottages are a business, a successful one. I was hoping we could come to an agreement." I crossed my arms. "I'm not selling." Silence. Her fingers drummed lightly against the folder as she exhaled through her nose, a crack in the mask. All right, she finally said, slipping her sunglasses back on. If that's your final decision. It is. A pause. Then with a smile too wide, too forced, she stepped back. Then I guess I'll see you in court. She turned on her heel, walking back to her SUV with slow, deliberate steps. I watched her leave, my fists clenched at my sides. And that's when I knew she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I didn't trust her. Karen wasn't the type to roll over and accept defeat. I could feel it, the way she held herself, the way she smiled even when she was cornered. She had another plan. I spent the next few days on edge, watching the property like a hawk. I installed security cameras, hidden ones this time. I changed the locks on my cabin. Every night I sat on the porch, shotgun resting across my lap, scanning the tree line for movement, and then it started. At first it was small things, a slashed tire on my truck, my mailbox ripped out of the ground, security cameras smashed, every single one. I confronted Karen directly. She only laughed. "Oh, Liam," she purred, shaking her head. "I don't control vandals. Maybe you just have enemies?" Enemies. Right. I wasn't stupid. She was trying to break me. She wanted me to feel unsafe, wanted me to leave, but she didn't know me. I wasn't backing down, so I installed more cameras, this time hidden deep in the trees, cameras she wouldn't find. And 2 nights later, they caught everything, 2:47 a.m. A car pulled up near the cottages. 2 figures stepped out, both masked. One carried a gas can, the other a crowbar. They moved quickly, whispering to each other as they poured gasoline along the edge of my storage shed. And then one of them laughed. That's when I saw it. A flash of skin just for a second. A tattoo on the man's wrist. I knew that tattoo. Karen's nephew. I didn't call the police, not yet. Instead, I grabbed my shotgun. I stepped onto my porch, my boots heavy against the wooden planks. My heart pounded against my ribs. The night air was thick, the scent of gasoline sharp. I raised my gun, aiming straight at the masked men. "Move, and you're leaving in a body bag!" They froze. One bolted immediately, dropping the gas can as he ran. The other, Karen's nephew, stood there, trembling. "Take off the mask," I ordered. He hesitated. "Now." Slowly his hand shook as he pulled it off. His eyes were wild with fear. "Karen put you up to this?" I asked, my voice low, steady. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. I already knew. The sirens wailed in the distance, and for the first time, Karen had lost control. I knew she wasn't done. Karen had too much to lose. The cottages, the money, the business. She had built everything on stolen land. And now that I was taking it back, she was desperate. And desperate people? They're dangerous. The first attack didn't come right away. For a few days, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No calls, no messages, no legal threats. It felt like the world was holding its breath, like something was waiting just beyond the tree line, watching. I knew better than to believe in peace, not with someone like Karen. Silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. And then, the first sign. I stepped outside one morning, coffee in hand, only to find my mailbox ripped from the ground. The wooden post, once firmly planted for decades, lay shattered across the gravel road, splintered, destroyed, like someone had taken a crowbar to it. I stared at the wreckage for a long time. A warning. I didn't react. I didn't fix it. Not yet. I wanted to see what would come next. The next day, I found the deep scratch running down the entire side of my truck. Long, jagged, deliberate, like a knife had been dragged across the paint, carving a message without words. I ran my fingers over it, feeling the rough grooves left behind. A slow breath, a steady pulse. I still didn't react, but I knew this was just the beginning. 2 nights later, I was jolted awake by the sound of shattering glass. I grabbed my flashlight, moving fast, heart already pounding in my chest. The cold night air hit me as I stepped onto the porch. The front window was destroyed. Shards of glass littered the floor, catching the moonlight, and lying in the middle of my living room, a brick. I crouched down, turning it over in my hands. No note, no message, just an act of pure destruction. I exhaled slowly, setting the brick aside. Karen wasn't playing mind games anymore. She was escalating. I made a call to the sheriff's department, filing a report. They came, took pictures, made notes. "Any idea who might have done this?" the deputy asked. I met his eyes. "We both know who did this. But Karen, she denied everything." When I confronted her the next day, she only smiled, sweet, innocent, unbothered. I don't control vandals, Liam, she said, her voice dripping with mock sincerity. Maybe you just have enemies? I didn't take the bait. Didn't give her the reaction she wanted. I just watched her, because I wasn't angry. I was prepared. And Karen had just made her biggest mistake. I knew she wouldn't stop. So I installed new cameras. This time, hidden ones. 2 days later, they caught everything. It was 2:47 a.m. when two figures crept onto my land, both masked, both armed. One held a gas can, the other a crowbar. They moved fast, whispering, careful with their steps. They went straight for my shed. They were going to burn it. I could hear them murmuring. She said to do it fast. We should hit the house, too. And then one of them laughed. And in that split second, under the glow of the moon, I saw it. A quick flash of ink. A tattoo. I knew that tattoo. Karen's nephew. That was all I needed. I grabbed my shotgun, stepped onto my porch, and raised it. Move! And you're leaving in a body bag. Everything froze. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then one bolted. The gas can dropped. The other, Karen's nephew, stood trembling. Take off the mask, I ordered. He hesitated. Now! Slowly, he obeyed. His eyes were wild with fear. Karen put you up to this? I asked. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. I already knew. The sirens cut through the night, their piercing wails bouncing off the trees. Flashes of red and blue painted the forest, flickering over the wreckage of my truck, the scattered footprints in the dirt, the gasoline-soaked ground. I stood on my porch, shotgun still gripped in my hands. My heart was pounding, my breathing heavy, but I wasn't tired. I was ready. This was the end game. Sheriff Bowman was the first to step out of his cruiser. Calm, focused, ready. He scanned the scene, Karen's nephew still frozen in place. The evidence littered across the yard, the faint smell of gasoline still hanging in the cold air. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. He just looked at his deputy. Cuff him! The deputy moved fast, yanking the kid's arms behind his back, securing thick zip ties around his wrists. The moment the plastic cinched tight, he let out a shaky breath, like he had just realized how badly he had screwed up. I took a step forward. He confessed, I said, my voice steady. Said Karen sent them. The sheriff didn't react. No surprise, no hesitation. He just turned to the deputy. Get him talking, now! And Karen's nephew? He broke immediately. It wasn't my idea, he blurted, his voice shaking. She paid me. Bowman didn't blink. How much? The kid swallowed hard. His eyes darted between me and the sheriff, his breath coming in quick, panicked gasps. $5,000, he admitted. She told me to burn the shed, make it look like an accident. Silence. The sheriff's jaw tightened. He turned his gaze toward the squad car, where his other deputies were already pulling a second suspect from the woods, the guy who had bolted earlier. No doubt about it, this was organized. This was planned. And Karen? She was done. By morning, she was sitting in an interrogation room. Through the one-way glass, I watched her. She sat perfectly still, hands folded on the metal table. Her expression was neutral, controlled. But I could see it, the tightness in her jaw, the way her fingers curled just slightly against the tabletop. She knew this was over. The door opened. Sheriff Bowman stepped inside. No hesitation, no wasted time. He pulled out a thick folder and slammed it on the table. Your nephew gave you up, Karen. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, she just stared. We've got texts, calls, payments, still nothing. Bowman exhaled through his nose. Slow, heavy. Then he reached into the folder, pulled out the final blow. Printed security photos. He slid them across the table one by one. Karen's car, Karen's nephew, the gas can, the tattoo, a perfect, irrefutable chain of evidence. Karen's mask finally cracked. Her lips parted just slightly. Her breath hitched, barely noticeable, but I saw it. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback, didn't have a counter move, didn't have a way out. It was over, completely, undeniably over. Karen had played every hand she had. She had lied, manipulated, destroyed. But in the end, she lost. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I could finally breathe. The next morning, the sun rose over my land. No fines, no threats, no Karen. For the first time in months, everything was quiet. I stepped onto my porch, inhaling the crisp air. For the first time in a long time, It smelled like home again. The battle was over. And Karen, she was nothing more than a bad memory now. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, and then I smiled, because justice had finally been served.